Hey guys, and welcome to this episode of the Bad Idea Bros. So it's been a while, but we've got another shed build, and this one is something special. So I'm joined by Warren. You guys have seen us work on his Enfield before, with a very sexy 70s Honda 354. So guys, this is a very special bike. It's a 1975 model. We do see them about a little bit, but they're not too common, and I'm very pleased to be able to work on it. So Warren, what's the plan for today?
Well, we've diagnosed from the engine's poor noise that we could have a cam chain problem. We've had it running, it's running and rideable, but it's got a rattle that's not very nice to hear. So today we're going to pull that engine out, have a quick look at that chain and run around it. While we've got it out, we might as well go through it, so we've got some other bling to go on it as well. Tail lights a little bit cracked, exhausts look a bit munted. So we're going to do a bit of a touch-up whilst we have the engine out.
So guys, that is the plan for today. I have very itchy fingers to get into this. I'm very excited. You guys know I fizz over vintage bikes and classic bikes, and the 354 is something that's on my wish list. So I'm a little jealous that Warren's got one, but at least I get to have a play. So guys, let's get into this thing. Alright guys, so as with any job, the first point is to get the fluids out of the motor. So the oil filter is in an interesting spot on these bikes. It's right at the front, and it's a little case, but there we go. The oil looks pretty good actually. Alright, so yeah, perfect. That actually looks pretty good too.
Uh-oh.
That's alright. Spacer and spring. Not seeing any shiny bits in there. That is really hot. So, no, that's good news. So what we were looking for there, guys, is any signs of metal wear inside the motor. And the first place that presents is usually inside the filter. And you can see in between the paper elements that there would be something shiny like glitter. And then again, in the can, we're looking really good. It's actually really nice and clean in there. And the oil's not too bad either. So that's a good starting point. The next thing will probably be the exhaust. So we'll yank the exhaust off of the thing, side covers, airbox, tank, seat, disconnect the wiring, and that's probably getting about there, do you reckon, Warren?
I think that will be a quick start to extracting that engine, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll get that done and we'll just see if there's any surprises that are connected that we're not expecting. We'll go from there. Let's carry on. So, Warren, you're lying on the ground, mate. What are we fighting there?
Well, the front bottom engine mount is a bolt, and I can't find the nut.
Ah, well, they're usually on the end of the bolt.
Yeah, where is that?
Where are we looking?
In here, running through.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yep. So
there must be something.
that's your bolt
here.
head. It's not captive, is it? Like it's not a threaded bolt.
I'm going to give it a little.
Give it a turn to see what happens. Any movement?
There's nothing. What on earth is.
It's not turning the.
Oh!
That's your nut, is it? It's a through bolt.
It's a bolt on this end, and it's a bolt on that end.
Yeah, so two captive bolts.
Huh.
Hey, I found your nut. It's in the oil.
I'll accept that. Let's put the bung back in and remove that bowl before it creates any more hassle.
Alright guys, so we at a point we feel that the motor's ready to come out. So we've got all the wiring disconnected. There's not a lot on a 70s bike. There's about 5 wires in total, I believe. Fuel lines disconnected. Obviously, there's no tank. But we've got all the breathers, everything's off. plug cables are off. They're all numbered, which has made our life a lot easier. We've pulled a third of the engine bolts, I believe. So we've got the front.
3 of 5.
Yeah, 3 of 5. We've got the front ones completely disconnected, so there's no load on that. And you saw Warren gracefully remove the bottom one and drop the nut in the oil. So we've got the lower and the upper ones for the back of the motor, and I believe it should just slide out from there. We should be good, eh?
It should be just pull those 2 pins and come out.
All right, well, fingers crossed. Alright guys, so as you can see from the big void in the frame there, the motor is out. It did take a little more than anticipated. We did have to actually pull the sump to have an access to get this 4-cylinder pot out. And in pulling the sump, we have unfortunately discovered that there's quite a bit of material in there, and I don't know if it's going to show on the light. Yeah, there we go. You can see all those sparkly bits. That's metal. So it looks like it could be bearing material. So from the main bearings on the crank is the most likely problem. The timing chain was making quite a rattle though, so it could be a bit from that. The way that the tensioner runs in these things could be even a bit of that, but we're going to have to pull the motor.
I'm hoping tensioner just if something's given away on the bottom, a part that can be replaced.
Yeah, so that's best case scenario. But what we haven't actually told you guys is that we do have an insurance policy, which is sitting over here. We have a whole other motor. So we're not too fussed at the moment. It's not like it's a catastrophic fail because obviously Warren wrote it here, so that's a good sign. But
it runs. It's not happy.
No, and that was the point of pulling it down. It does run. But it's very rattly. So
and due to what we found on the sump, I think we just need to get that cover off.
Yeah.
Have a look at that top end, see if we can see any damage.
Yep. So guys, going forward from here, the valve cover, we'll pull that off. We may even split the cylinders, pull the cylinders up from the block.
Yes.
Yeah. So all reasonably simple to do. Hondas are made nice and easy for that. The whole top will come apart as one unit, and then we'll split the cylinder. Obviously, we've got exploded parts here everywhere and bits off of the bike. As does happen when you're doing these things, but
it looks magic.
It's something. It's definitely something. But guys, we're procrastinating a little bit, so we might have a coffee and then get back into it. Alright guys, so it was a bit of a fight, but we got it off, and you can see the valve train assembly here. So the chain, I don't know if it's going to show on camera, but it is loosey-goosey. There's always a bit of movement in them, but that is considerably a lot of movement. Good news is the camshaft itself, all the rollers are looking good. There's a few score marks on. You can see that there's just a bit of rotational lining. That's pretty normal, to be honest. It is a 70s bike, but camshaft looks good. And top end, I'm pretty happy with. I've got to be honest, that looks pretty decent.
I'm happy with all aspects apart from the cam chain. I think our diagnosis is correct.
Yeah.
That chain, for some reason, the tensioner has failed. When we get further down, we might see some broken spring.
Yeah, potentially.
Seizing.
Or the roller. I'm actually thinking the roller might be a bit of an issue as well.
Yeah,
so,
but it's further down, so we're going to have to keep digging.
Yep, so next part is to get the cylinder head off, guys. So we'll separate that from the lower part of the block. And there's just all these 12mm dome nuts that are living in here. We will be rebuilding this motor to some extent. Whether it's getting bearings and rings, we don't know, but this is all investigative at the moment. So we will carry on tearing down, and we'll check back into you once we are pulling the cylinder head off. Alright guys, so we've got a bit of an update for you, and it's unfortunately not great. So we've pulled the board, and number 1 and 4 pistons, so the outside pistons, both have broken rings. So we managed to get all the pieces out, which is good, because nobody likes to fish bits out of the bottom end, but judging by that, we're going to be doing a bit more of a job than anyway. You did mention that it was a bit smoky on number 4, didn't you?
Number one, well, the left-hand
Left
pair
bank,
of
yep,
pipes. So
yep.
the number 1 was smoky. Both of them were a little dirty, but I just called that old age and sitting.
Yeah, so that makes sense. That would be the broken ring, but that's about it, guys. There's quite a bit of carbon on the top of the pistons, as you'd expect to see. The timing chain is very sad, which is what we were into the motor first for the first reason for getting into the motor anyway. But unfortunately, it's not going to be a quick weekend fix. So as I mentioned before, we do have the second motor, so it might be scavenging parts from that. It could be that becomes the donor motor. It depends what we find in the bottom end of this particular motor, I suppose. So we'll flip it. We'll have a look at where the crank bearings are. We'll see how worn they look. We obviously mentioned that there was all that material in the sump that we found earlier. Makes sense with broken rings. The bores actually look really good. There's no deep grooves or scoring, which is what we were expecting to see with broken rings, but it actually looks serviceable. So we'll flip the motor, we'll have a look at the big end bearings and just see how it's all looking on that side and see if it's worth continuing with this motor or if we start really digging into a can of worms. So guys, a bit more than we had anticipated initially, but that's how these things go. So we will carry on. Alright guys, so we've had a very interesting discovery. Just in around the clutch here you can see the starter motor gear. That should have a retaining bolt on top of it, which is currently in Warren's hand there. And you can see that it is worn to buggery. Where's that cover, the clutch cover? So on the underside of that, all that shiny point up there is where it's been rattling and rubbing. So yeah, the cause of the rattle is an unfastened clutch bolt. There's like no thread. There's nothing left on that.
And the cause of all the metal in the bottom.
Yep, that makes a lot of sense.
This would make up for it. I mean, seriously, we started at the wrong end, but we've found something we didn't know about in the process.
Exactly. The broken rings aren't going to help. So that's unbelievable. So what we might do, I mean, we don't have the rings to rebuild this motor anyway, and we haven't got the torque wrenches here today, so we've pulled it down to quite a way, so we might have to just slap it back together finger tight, put it in the boxes until we get the parts that we require to do the rebuild, and maybe we put the donor motor in.
Let's give the donor motor a go.
Yeah,
see if we can't put that in, get it running, and at least then we've got time to rebuild this and I can still ride the bike.
Exactly, yeah, so that's probably our best bet. So we'll put this back together in a fashion, and just so that it's complete and out of the way and we don't mix up parts, and slide it off to the side until we can come back to it to do a rebuild. And we'll slide in this guy, and we've got no carbies or anything, so we'll pull the carbies off of the good motor, well, the first motor, and yeah, we'll see if we can't get this thing fired up.